All right, so we saw some pretty incredible NBA action go down on March 23rd, 2025, and we were ready to dive into it.
Yeah, it was a night of some really close games, some blowouts, some big individual performances, and really, we're at that point in the season where every game has significant playoff implications.
Right, and we're going to focus on 5 specific matchups for you today to break down exactly what went down and what it means for the rest of the season.
So we'll be looking at the LA Clippers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets against the Denver Nuggets, the Toronto Raptors facing off against the San Antonio Spurs, then the Portland Trail Blazers taking on the Boston Celtics, and finally we'll wrap up with the Miami Heat going up against the Charlotte Hornets.
So let's jump right into it with that Clippers-Thunder game. Man, that one went right down to the wire with the Thunder pulling out the 103-101 win.
Yeah, talk about a nail biter. I mean,
Yeah.
you had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading the way for the Thunder with 32 points, and he was just clutch down the stretch, hitting big shot after big shot.
Yeah, and James Harden put up a good fight for the Clippers with 26 points, but the Thunder's defense just seemed to have an answer for everything they threw at them in those final minutes.
They really stepped up their intensity on the defensive end, especially off the ball, and I think that was a major factor in them closing out the game.
What do you think that win does for the Thunder's confidence going forward,
Yeah.
especially considering they're right in the thick of things in the Western Conference?
Oh, it's going to be huge. I mean, to win a game like that against a quality opponent like the Clippers, it really shows that they can handle pressure and execute down the stretch. That's going to give them a lot of momentum heading into the final stretch of the season.
And for the Clippers, I mean, even though it was a close loss,
Yeah.
you got to wonder if it exposes any areas they might need to work on before the playoffs.
Well, I think it highlights the importance of having consistent scoring threats beyond just Harden. When he's facing that much defensive pressure, they need others to step up and make plays, and that's something they'll definitely be looking to address.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the Rockets-Nuggets game, which ended up being a high-scoring affair with the Nuggets coming out on top 116-111.
Yeah, this one was all about Jamal Murray for the Nuggets. I mean, the guy was unstoppable, finishing with 39 points and 7 assists. He was just in a zone offensively, and the Rockets really had no answer for him.
It's like you couldn't miss. And the crazy thing is, the game wasn't even that close for a while. There was that big run in the third quarter by the Nuggets that basically put the game out of reach.
Yeah, they went on a 39-22 run in that third quarter, and it was just a clinic on both ends of the floor. I mean, they were hitting shots, they were crashing the boards, and the Rockets just couldn't keep up.
But, the Rockets didn't give up. They actually made a pretty impressive comeback attempt in the fourth quarter, showing that they can put points in a hurry.
Oh, yeah, they definitely have that offensive firepower, but the Nuggets just had a little bit more in the tank, and they were able to make enough plays down the stretch to secure the win.
It seems like that's a theme we're seeing with the Nuggets this season. That ability to withstand those runs and close out games.
It is, and that's a sign of a really good team, a team that can handle adversity and execute when it matters most,
Yeah.
and that's going to be crucial for them come playoff time.
All right, so moving over to the Eastern Conference. The Toronto Raptors had a rough night against the San Antonio Spurs, losing 123-89.
Yeah, the Spurs just completely dominated this game from start to finish. It was a balanced scoring effort led by Devin Vassell with 25 points, but they had contributions from up and down the roster.
And the Raptors, well, it just seemed like one of those nights where nothing was going right. I mean, they had more turnovers than field goals in the first quarter, which is just
Yeah.
a recipe for disaster.
Oh, yeah, you can't dig yourself a hole like that, especially against a team like the Spurs who are playing with a lot of confidence right now.
Scotty Barnes did his best to keep the Raptors in it with 22 points, but it was just too little too late.
Yeah, it was a tough night for the Raptors, and it's their fourth straight loss, which has got to be concerning for them as they try to turn things around.
All right, so the Boston Celtics, they just keep on rolling, extending their winning streak with a 129-116 victory over the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yeah, the Celtics are firing on all cylinders right now, and it all starts with Jason Tatum, who had another monster game with 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists. But it wasn't just him. They had a huge night from Sam Hauser off the bench, who went 8 for 10 from three-point range and finished with 24 points.
I mean, when you're getting that kind of production from your role players, it makes you almost unbeatable. And it seems like that's been a common theme for the Celtics this season. They just have so many weapons offensively.
Yeah, and they also play really good defense, so it's not just about outscoring teams. They're also making it tough for opponents to score on them, and that's a recipe for success in this league.
No doubt about it. All right, finally, let's talk about the Miami Heat, who managed to snap their long losing streak with a 122-105 win over the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, this was a much-needed win for the Heat, who had been struggling mightily. And it was Andrew Wiggins who led the charge with a season-high 42 points. He was just incredible and really carried the team to victory.
And Tyler Harrell also had a big game with 29 points, so it was a nice bounce-back performance from their backcourt.
Yeah, it was. And, they needed it because the Hornets actually came out strong and had a lead early on. But the Heat were able to weather the storm and ultimately pull away in the second half.
This win also officially eliminates the Hornets from playoff contention, so it's a reminder that while the Heat are trying to figure things out, the Hornets are still a ways away from being a consistent playoff team.
Right. They have a lot of young talent, but they still need to develop that consistency and learn how to win those tough games against experienced opponents.
So when we look back at all these games, what really stands out to you?
Well, I think it's just the fact that we're seeing the separation start to happen between the contenders and the pretenders. The teams that are going to be playing meaningful basketball in April and May are starting to hit their stride, and the teams that are on the outside looking in are starting to fade.
Right, and that just makes every game that much more important down the stretch.
Mhm.
Because every win and every loss could be the difference between making the playoffs and going home early.
Exactly. And, it's also exciting because it sets the stage for what should be a really interesting and unpredictable postseason.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that's all we've got for you today. But before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. We've talked a lot about individual performances and how they can impact a game. But I'm curious how you think those individual performances translate to team success in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a great question. We often see players have these huge games in the regular season, but can they replicate that in the playoffs when the pressure is even higher?
All right, so do you think it's more important to have a team that relies on a superstar or a team that's more balanced and can get contributions from everyone?
That's the big question, isn't it? And I think it's something we'll be exploring as we get deeper into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon with more analysis and insights from around the NBA.
Looking forward to it.
Until next time.
Take care.